It was August 9, 1978, when an Olympic Airways plane almost crashed into central Athens, with the pilot managing to avoid the disaster in just the last seconds of the flight. It was a hot August day at Ellinikon International Airport when 400 passengers boarded the Olympic Airways flight 411 to New York, most of them U.S. citizens returning from their summer vacation in Greece. There were 18 new members on that long-distance transatlantic flight. Want to know about it? Well, stay tuned to the video and watch the video till the end. Hello guys, welcome to the Mayday investigation. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications to get new updates about plane crashes and basically anything around air crash investigation. Hit the like button to show your support, and in this video, we are going to talk about Olympic Airways Flight 411. So without any further ado, let's begin. The horror lasted for just 93 seconds, but it was enough to be imprinted forever in the minds of the passengers of the aircraft. Sifis Migadis was the pilot, and he would be called upon to experience the most difficult moment of his career that afternoon. Shortly after takeoff, an explosion on the right side of the jumbo froze everyone, passengers and crew. Migadis immediately realized that he was flying without an engine. Next to him was co-pilot Konstantinos Fikardos, also a seasoned pilot, with whom he flew frequently. Boeing reported that there was an engine shut down while lifting off. Greek newspaper reported that there was an explosion while taking off. Based upon the review of the flight data recorder, Boeing concluded that 9 seconds after liftoff, the flight crew had turned off the water injection pumps in response to the warnings, which reduced thrust. Turning off the pumps when the plane was takeoff climb limited significantly impacted the plane's ability to climb. Boeing states that the thrust was increased manually after 325 seconds, and then the plane climbed normally. Captain Sifis Migadis managed to keep the aircraft in the air at an extremely low altitude and with below minimal speed. All Boeing simulations of the flight resulted in crashes. At 2 p.m. on that day, the crew took their seats and the plane entered the runway for takeoff. The aircraft was carrying 160 tons of fuel, as it would fly directly from Athens to New York. During takeoff, the aircraft could not get high enough. Before the wheels could come off the ground, an explosion was heard from the right engine, which had been damaged. Migadis could not stop the plane and ordered Fikardos to pick up the wheels to continue the takeoff. Meanwhile, the flight engineer, as soon as he saw the damage to the engine, cut off the water. With this, the plane lost 4,500 pounds of thrust. The pilot was struggling to get the Boeing 747 high enough up, and people from ground control thought that the plane would crash into the city of Athens with a minimum height of altitude. The pilot managed to pass over the first obstacle, which was a hill in the Alimos neighborhood, which was 200 meters high. The bad thing was that the flight had started and landed the plane, so immediately was a very difficult case. Almost lost, to be precise. The plane was found flying 60 meters above the apartment building of Egalio with 1 engine damaged and the other 3 malfunctioning. Migadis flew at an altitude of only 209 meters before the plane started losing altitude again. At the same time, Fikardo was sending desperate emergency signals to the control tower. According to Boeing, engine 3 and 4 idled lower than usual as they taxied. Speed decreased and altitude was lost. The Boeing report does not mention that engine number 3 exploded and other engines lost power, as was reported in the Greek newspapers. Migadis used his knowledge in aerodynamics to prevent the plane from stalling. He needed to fly level and avoid turning as much as possible. As it passed over Kalthea, near Smyrni, and Segru, its altitude was only 180 feet and its speed was 160 miles per hour. The plane flew just above apartment rooftops and took down some television antennas. The aircraft passed close to the Inter-American Tower. At some point, Migadis lowered the nose of the plane to gain speed, and the engineer was able to increase the engine's power. According to a flight attendant, from the windows, they could look out and see the employees working in the offices looking back at the plane, completely flabbergasted. As he had said in an interview, he broke many aviation rules in order to keep his plane in the air. He decided not to turn it around and try to maneuver his way out of the situation. During those dramatic 93 seconds, the two men in the cockpit were silent. At the same time, the engineer was desperately trying to repair the engine in any way he could, while the pilots were focused, calm, and collected. This was the reason why most passengers did not understand what was going on and had the impression that the low flight over Athens was scheduled. In fact, some of them were taking pictures from the window as they were passing just above the rooftops. When the speed reached 170 miles per hour, Migadis worked on increasing altitude and heading towards the sea. The larger obstacle of Mount Aigaleo at 1,539 feet was of great concern, because the low airspeed and minimal altitude did not leave the flight crew enough room to execute a normal banked turn. At 2:05 p.m., a light headwind gave the plane some altitude, which allowed Migadis to make a gradual turn to avoid crashing into the mountain. After flying over the sea to dump fuel, the aircraft returned to Ellinikon International Airport safely. People at the control tower did not know what was going on because there was no communication from the cockpit. When they saw the Boeing 747 coming back from Piraeus, could not believe their eyes. The return of the aircraft was met with delirious applause on the ground. When Migadis got off the plane, he saw his two daughters waiting for him. The two women had been alarmed by a cousin who was flying a few meters above the Panionios soccer grounds and told them that it almost hit the light pylons and would have crashed. Migadis' composure, skills, and experience undoubtedly saved thousands of lives had the plane crashed in a populated area. The knowledge, skills, and composure of Migadis, which he fortunately managed to transmit to the rest of the crew, but also his courage to break a cart of rules, those crucial moments went down in history as the miracle of Flight 411. It is characteristic that the experts seeing the flight data and the problems of the plane could not believe that it finally landed smoothly. The aircraft flew at low altitudes that seem impossible. Even engineers from Boeing said that it was not possible for that particular aircraft to stay in the air, going at such low speeds. After the near tragedy, Migadis, like the hero he was, resumed his seat in the cockpit of a replacement aircraft, and at 6 p.m., with the rest of the crew, flew the 400 passengers over the Atlantic to New York City. As Migadis stated in a 1994 interview, "Those of us who survived that day are stowaways in life. Everyone got off the plane safe and sound, and he went down in history as a legendary pilot." No one wants to think about what would happen if the plane crashed into a residential area. In the late 1960s, Pratt & Whitney developed the JT9D engine on an accelerated timetable, which resulted in engine flaws. In the 1970s, the JT9D engine had a number of mechanical issues, and proper maintenance was required to ensure the engine safety. For instance, high-pressure turbine core fan blades could become damaged and require replacement after 500 hours. The JT9 engines were also sensitive to tailwind airflow conditions at the start. The early JT9D engines could flame out if the thrust levers were slammed forward. The jarring movement could put pressure on the engine and ultimately result in a flameout. In 1971, American Airlines Flight 14 took off from San Francisco to New York. 16 seconds after the Boeing 747 lifted off, the Pratt & Whitney JT9D No. 1 engine exploded after its turbine blades disintegrated. It was at an altitude of 525 feet. The National Transportation Safety Board said in its incident report that this was likely due to an ongoing pattern of the engine becoming overheated during starting procedures. The plane returned to the airport and landed safely. The Greek National Air Safety Board, the Air Accident Investigation and Aviation Safety Board, which investigates aviation accidents and incidents, were not established until 2004. Now that we've come to the end of this video, I want to thank you for sticking with me, and I'd love to know what you think of it. Just comment down below. Also, if you like this video, make sure you like it and stay safe. Today's video is over, but if you want to see more, there's one on your screen right now, and there are a few more videos coming soon about air crash investigation. I'll see you in the next video.